Russell is playing good football.
Yeah.
Steelers are playing good football.
No secret there.
Yeah, so let's address the playoff picture here because things are starting to develop. This is something that we're going to talk obviously more of, and let's start with this Steelers team. I mean, Mike Tomlin, the genius of Mike Tomlin, Justin Fields playing good football, benches him for Russell Wilson. The team has not missed a beat, BMAC, sitting atop the division. There they are as the 3 seed. Is this Steelers team right now the most perhaps scary team in the AFC?
I'm not willing to say scary just yet because you still want to see more. Russell just completed his 3rd start for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and in 3 starts he's been outstanding, but can he sustain this level of success, right, for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because that has been the one Achilles heel for their team for such a long time, not having quality sound play at the quarterback position. Russell is giving them that, and they're winning ball games, and they're doing so the old school way when you talk about outstanding defense, running the football, making routine plays happen routinely in the passing game. But the one luxury I think the Steelers have at their disposal, guys, and when you look at the playoff picture, the AFC is not as competitive as we thought it would be when it came to depth. Right, you know about Kansas City, we talked about Buffalo, but Houston, they're not looking as strong as we thought they would look. Cincinnati, most people feel like they were a legit playoff caliber team when the season started. Clearly, they have dropped the ball in regards to those expectations. So the window is open for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And oh, by the way, Baltimore has Lamar Jackson, but their defense has really been abysmal, to say the least. So that is another opportunity for the Pittsburgh Steelers when you look at everything that's circulating in the AFC.
Yeah, they're not the scariest team, but I would definitely argue that they are a legitimate contender in that AFC. When you look at the things they can do from the defensive front, from the way they're coached at the top, Mike Tomlin, fantastic. Obviously, a Coach of the Year level decision, bringing Russell Wilson into the fold. Then you get a guy like George Pickens, boop, boop, boop. He's activated now in terms of he's bought in, he's available mentally, and you can see it sometimes when he's locked in, he's the best player on the football field. Russell taking advantage of that, and we can see this come to fruition. The Steelers are looking legit.
Well, if the postseason did start today, they would face the 6-seeded Chargers. Let's move on here, because with the Steelers beating the Commanders on Sunday and Philadelphia winning over Dallas, the Eagles have now taken control of the NFC East at 7-2, excuse me. But in terms of contending in the NFC, where do the Eagles stack up in your opinion, guys?
I think this is the team that's come on, right behind the Detroit Lions. When I think about teams in the NFC that are scary, you use the word scary for Pittsburgh. This team scares me because they have studs at the most important positions. Running back, we got Saquon Barkley. Quarterback, Jalen Hurts is a guy that's been to the top of the mountain. Right tackle, best in the game, Lane Johnson. And the defense, Vic Fangio's defense is coming around. Those guys on the back end, they're playing really well. They're playing for one another. The linebackers, Vaughn, Dean, these guys are balling. The Eagles are scary right now.
I agree with you because they have playmakers that can take the football, the length of the football field at any given time, led by Saquon Barkley, and you throw in A.J. Brown. We didn't really see a lot from A.J. Brown, but you know what he can do given the one-on-one matchups in his favor. But the most surprising thing, Kyle, you hit on it. Their defense is finally living up to the billing, and you have to like the stability they have when it comes to coaching, the execution, and not allowing big splash plays from opposing offenses. So for me, this is a scary time for the Commanders because you just took one on the chin yesterday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You want to stay within reach of the Eagles. This Thursday night game is a massive game for both teams involved in terms of NFC East seeding and trying to get that divisional crown.
Another big game this week is the Bills and, of course, the Chiefs. Bills sitting 2 games back of the Chiefs for the 1 seed in the AFC. That can change. You can get to within a game this weekend if the Bills manage to get the better of the Chiefs. BMAC, with this potentially being an AFC championship preview, what kind of a game are you expecting, and what do you hope to learn from these 2 teams?
Well, number one, for Buffalo, they need to get healthy offensively. They were able to win a ball game without Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman yesterday against the Colts. But if you don't have those 2 top guys playing against an elite like defense in the Kansas City Chiefs, it puts more pressure on your quarterback in Josh Allen. So that's the first thing you're hoping for, a good slate of health offensively for the Bills. Outside of that, Josh Allen needs to continue to do what he's done thus far. Now, we saw 2 interceptions yesterday, but before yesterday's ball game, he's been very, very smart with the football, efficient, not pressing, not trying to force things to happen, and we haven't seen the turnovers that we've seen from Josh Allen. Playing against Pat Mahomes, you have to be the smarter quarterback. You don't necessarily have to be the best playmaker, but you have to be the most efficient, because one thing we're learning about the Kansas City Chiefs, They have not 9 lives. They got 20. When you think you have them, you do not have them. And you don't want to make things easier for them, especially when you talk about a game that has so much at stake in the AFC in terms of seeding.
You got to start fast if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, because if you're playing against the Buffalo Bills, particularly on the road in Buffalo against that rival, you know that those guys at the edge rush positions are going to look to take over this football game. I think the one glaring issue the Kansas City Chiefs have right now is the left tackle position. And Patrick Mahomes is in a little bit of trouble with how things currently stand in the protection. I have real concerns there. Then you look at the edge rushers for Buffalo. This could spell disaster unless the Kansas City Chiefs find a way to not trail, as they have in 8 of the 9 games this year, B-Mac. Yeah. They need to start fast, keep those rushers at bay for Buffalo.
All right, Chiefs undefeated right now. If you look up their upcoming schedule, they do face the Bills. We talked about it next week, and if they get past the Bills, do they remain undefeated on the season?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's tough because you got the Chargers. They're going to be coming to town as well, and they're a group that can make it a fight any given week. We've seen that from Harbaugh's group all year. They can run the ball. They play defense. They can throw the football around.
And that was a competitive game the first time.
Yes, in L.A. So that's, you know, the Buffalo one is the sexy pick, and everybody's talking about Buffalo, and I get it. It's Mahomes and Allen, but Herbert's playing really well. Harbaugh's got those guys playing really well, too.
So
and don't forget about Christmas.
Yeah.
Right?
This is true.
Jordan, who are they playing on Christmas?
You are not wrong.
Week 17, the Steelers, right? And the thing about that matchup, there's only 1 week left after week 17. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, they have everything locked and loaded in terms of seeding, the division. Would you go out and play your starters for a full ball game in week 18 when you don't really have anything at stake? You know, I think that's something to consider as well. But me personally, right now, I got to take the field because they've been getting by. They've been getting by the hair of their chinny chin chin.
20 lives.
Yeah, 20. I said 20. I don't know what life are they on now. They're on 18. 19, but they got 20. Let's see how close they are to 20, because eventually someone's going to catch them.
Yeah, that's a good point. That game also in Pittsburgh. All right, I want to go down the playoff standings here because there's a battle for the 7th seed developing right now. Green Bay has it in the NFC. Denver has it in the AFC. But with prominent teams like San Francisco, you've got Cincy in the mix, Chicago as well, kind of on the outside looking in. Kyle, how confident are you that some of those teams could really cause chaos and mess up some of these odds here?
Well, you mentioned Cincinnati. You mentioned Chicago. I think both those teams are going to be out of it. Honestly, I think Chicago's done for. Cincinnati, they had an opportunity this past week to go and get it done. They fell short. Joe Burrow's been spectacular, but it's just not enough for this football team. The defense has been an issue all year long. But I think when you look at that AFC West with the Chargers and the Broncos, and the Broncos obviously could have benefited a great deal from not getting that field goal block, but the Chargers are one of those groups, man. They're coming on hot. They've been a really good football team. I'm keeping my eyes on them the whole way through.
I'm right there with you when you look at the Broncos. I think when you look at the teams in the hunt, who do we really believe in? Who do you trust? Not the Colts, maybe Cincinnati, but they're so far behind the 8 ball, they have no room for error. So that helps the Denver Broncos because they're playing really, really good football. I love what I saw last week, this previous week against Chiefs. Even though they lost, they bounced back because they didn't show up at all against Baltimore. They have a very, very intriguing matchup this week. They have Atlanta, who's coming off a loss as well. So for Sean Payton, he has to get his guys right back in track because you look at the traffic jam of teams that are currently in the hunt. I don't know if there's one team where we can say, I really believe they got a shot because there's so much that has to happen for those teams to currently get into the playoffs.
All right, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on CBS Sports HQ as we continue to break down the developing NFL playoff picture.